Ladies and gentlemen, here in New York City. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening if you're following this via SYS-CON TV out there on the World Wide Web through 2.3 million pages. We've embedded our next speaker, Bob Evans, Senior VP of Communications at Oracle. So you know this is going to be lively. 10 myths of cloud computing. Who knows what he has in store? Let's give it up, please, for Bob Evans of Oracle.
Right. Hello, everyone. Thank you. Jeremy, thank you. JG21 on Twitter told me that he talked to the people at the Javits Center, and he said to them, look, I could have this room designed any way you want it, tiered, rounded, comfortable, leather chairs and all that, but he said the people here attending Cloud Expo New York wanted it close in, monitors up front, this size room so that you can take pictures of the screen. And that's what this guy, he has moved mountains. It's tremendous. Let us give it up for Jeremy. Come on now. Thank you. So I want to tell you what these 10 myths are. We'll run through them first real quickly. But first I wanted to ask you folks, could I see a show of hands here in the room? We're going to ask about planning, piloting, or deploying clouds. Anybody in the planning stage? Right, a quarter of the room. Piloting, put into that, maybe 20%. Anybody already fully deployed on the cloud? Okay, about half of those. Salesmen, ignore those people. So the 10 myths, let's see. First of all, there's some people feel that public is the only true cloud. I don't agree with that. Some people say you're either all in or all out on the cloud. We'll talk about that some. That one size fits all. And actually, there's lots and lots of approaches. Virtualization is the same as the cloud. I think that's a myth. Clouds only run on commodity components. I don't think so. If you go with the cloud, you're locked in. You're handcuffed. You're the slave to the cloud provider. Not true. Cloud equals pay per use. Clouds are insecure. I need multiple clouds to run my business. And finally, the only benefit of the cloud is cost savings. So could we get the first slide, please, or the next one? And do I have a high tech here? Got it? All right, just this is a really thrilling little bit here of privileged information. We have to say this. Okay, everybody's read that. So, you know, this survey showed that about half of the people asked about the cloud believe that stormy weather can interfect cloud computers, that it's driven by that. This is true. Some say I've never used it, even though most of them do multiple times a day. But the one I really like was this third one. 22% admit that they've pretended to know what the cloud is. I want to know about that other 78%. Are they honest, or have they never used it? Or, you know, where do they come? Who are these people? What are they doing here? But a lot of people think it's the workplace of the future. We couldn't agree more. So is public the only true cloud? Right? Because a lot of us in our personal lives tend to deal more with public clouds. So let's take a look at a couple growth charts. Certainly over the last couple years, the growth rate for the public cloud has been higher than that for private clouds. But you see that the private cloud numbers are higher. There's more significant penetration in that area. This is from the Independent Oracle Users Group Association, a big group, thousands and thousands of people. This is a Gartner study, talking just about private here, not public, but just private. Almost 90%, 89% say we're either planning, piloting, or have deployed a private cloud. So if you size that up a little bit with the opening show of hands we took, this will give you a sense maybe of where you stand versus a lot of other companies going on here. Almost 90% are getting into the private cloud space. Myth number 2, you're either all in or all out. Right? This is a life or death commitment. I would say that's false. We look at it in some ways as an evolution, right? We start over here. If you look at the far left, everybody's dealing with some of these things, the silos, physical, cultural, how your departments are set up, where your data is, what's available to you, and what isn't available. Start moving into the cloud a little bit. Some of the consolidation happens. It's easier consumption, a little more standardization. Starting to chip away at that cost model. You know, there's a lot of people that say the one thing about cloud, whether it's public or private, one of the great benefits of this is it's a financial model that helps your companies be able to spend less on infrastructure and integration and spend more on innovation and customer-facing growth opportunities. So that when your CIO, your boss, comes to you in the middle of the year and says, hey, we've got these 3 great new growth-oriented, customer-oriented projects coming up, why haven't we cranked that up? And you say, we don't have any money left because it's all being spent on the stuff in the basement. That's probably not a happy conversation for you to have. And this is one of the ways that this path to the cloud, it's not all in or all out. Next step, moving some into the private cloud, right? Where you can get some of the self-service and auto-scaling, metering, all of those good things. As that moves along and you gain some experience, then the public cloud, moving outside your own firewall, becomes viable. And you see some of the benefits here as well. Shared, standardized. And ultimately, the high-end state, the hybrid cloud, where you've got all your things running exactly the way you want them to run in the cloud, private cloud, public cloud, on-premise, some combination of those. So this is the end state here. Start with consolidation, extend to private, use public where you think that helps. Is it one size fits all? So there's deployment models, right? We've gone through these public, private, hybrid, and as our president and CFO, Safra Katz, said recently, said also if you've got a lot of on-premise equipment, she said that's okay. On-premise isn't a dirty word. So we're still going to have a lot of that. Things are going to coexist. But the growth and the activity and the dynamism in the business seems to be very much moving toward the cloud and these different ways of deploying here, not a one-size-fits-all. What's best for your business? What's best for your priorities? What's best for your budget at this current time? The service models, right? You can hit it at the application level, at the infrastructure level, at the platform level. What's the right choice at the right time? And any cloud provider who comes to you and says, oh, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to have choice. You want to come through this real narrow set of products that I just happen to be selling, don't believe them. The operating model, and this is where it gets not weird, but again, we've been conditioned to think that cloud means one specific thing, and it doesn't. You can have the customer owning the cloud and the customer operating it. Lots and lots of happy deployments of those when it fits that purpose. When that's the right way to go, that's the way to do it. There's other cases where the customer owns it but says, I don't want to be in the cloud operations business. I'm going to have somebody on the outside do it, but I own it. And still the third choice is when somebody says, I just want the service, I want the benefit, I want the business value of it. I don't want to own it, I don't want to manage it, I don't really even want to see it. All of those models are possible. It is not a one-size-fits-all. Among the models you can look at here, on the one hand, you can have, as we just described, build it on your own. You can manage it where it's partway, some owned, some operated. And the other side where it's completely done by the provider. There have been cases we know where companies, maybe in financial services, say, I want to have this inside my firewall, but I want you to own it, I want you to manage it, and I just want the benefit from it. Charge me a monthly fee. Virtualization equals the cloud. We think virtualization is a terrific technology. And tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of companies around the world have been using it to great success. It's a good first step. It's a good move in the right direction. It does not equal all the benefits that a full cloud spectrum can provide here. So if we break this out here, looking at platform as a service and also infrastructure as a service, you'll see that lots of folks are pursuing the IaaS model. And they're continuing to chip away at that giant infrastructure anchor that they've been carrying around with them, trying to lessen each month at a level of cost that they deal with, because the cost isn't always equating to value for them. How do I push some of that off onto somebody else so I can have more of my precious IT dollars to spend on growth-oriented initiatives? We're seeing even more activity recently in the platform as a service, right? Getting more of the software together where they can get some standard models coming together. Everything from middleware, the operating system, the database, identity management, all of those good things. Ultimately, this consolidation starts to come to bear, right? And you start to get some of those financial benefits from it. And the two different models here. With platform as a service, of course, you get some of the standardization values that come into it. And infrastructure as a service, you also get a lot of benefits on everything from less hardware you're buying, you're using less power, there's less real estate, lots of benefits in each direction. So again, going back to that, it's not one size fits all. It's not the same as virtualization. Some details in here about some of the savings we just described, and as well with the platform as a service. The difference here is standardized platform for all applications, less heterogeneity, meaning more common stuff, a lot less training, a lot less complexity in there. More and more in any sort of studies we're doing, talking to customers, they want to get away from the complexity, move towards simpler IT. Drive the innovation by simplifying IT, liberating some money that you can use on growth-oriented, externally oriented initiatives. Myth number 5, clouds only run on commodity components. Rooms full, thousands of these x86 servers, hundreds of rooms full of these things, each one plugged into the wall, each one using power, each one heating up the building, needing a lot of space for this. It's been a very effective model so far. We're seeing some companies come up to saying, it's time for my second generation infrastructure, and they're evaluating. This has been a good approach, but as the business demands of tomorrow get more complicated, have longer term implications, is that still going to be the best model going forward? There's different approaches here. Large best of breed systems, some optimized systems in there, all the way up to some manufacturers are offering specially equipped, purpose-built systems to run clouds. You have to decide which is the right model for me, my company, my budget, the priorities I have right now, and what I'm trying to achieve. But there's lots of different choices available. It's not just one. And anybody who tells you it's just one is wrong, and they're not telling you the truth. Some questions to think about with that, right? How much is it going to cost me for this deployment of all the hardware and the VM stuff? As I move into the software stack, the installation, configuration, how much time, effort, training of people on new sorts of software. Is that something I want to deal with? What's the cost per performance? Conventional wisdom today says that hundreds of rooms jammed full of x86 servers is the best way to go. Is the conventional wisdom going to be the right choice in the upcoming world of big data? Heavily social demands on everything we're doing. You know, more and more people, the need to move as fast as the world around you. Because if you can't move as fast as your customers move, how are you going to compete? And the only thing you're going to be able to do is say to your customers, would you please slow down, put your world on hold till I can catch up with you. I don't think that's a viable way to compete. So as you think about what's the right infrastructure here, these choices that you have in front of you are going to have long-lasting implications. Pick what's right for your company. And this last one here about reliability and quality of service, outages and latency, it isn't just on the application, right, that's going to be running, you know, when your employees check how many vacation days do I have left. What about if it's your brand and your products and your revenue and your business that's out there on the line and quality of service becomes a threat? Right? It's one thing when it's internal stuff you're handling. Very, very different situation when you're putting your business, your brand, your reputation out there on the line to the world. What's the right sort of infrastructure for you to have? Well, I believe I would call that obvious. We're not going to. Myth number 6, the cloud will lock you in. I think that is true if you pick the wrong provider. One who doesn't have the range of services and products and approaches, pricing models and so on that match your needs. You people are in the driver's seat here. For a long time, the technology sector tried to say to you, hey, put my arm around your shoulder and say, just come this way, just give me, this amount of money every month and everything will be fine. You've got more choices now than ever before, different range of things to go with, and you can avoid this lock-in thing if you align what your business needs are, what your approaches are with what's available out there. Pick the right thing, be very demanding, and push on the technology community to ensure that what they're giving you is what you really need. This is a great nutrition company, Herbalife, and it's one of the samples that, or one of the customer examples we're most proud of. It's from their senior VP and CIO, and he said we had to have multiple deployment options. He said because our business is going to change, and from one part of our business to another, it's not all the same requirements, it's not all the same priorities. Things are going to shift over time. And he says in here, the business circumstances and these multiple deployment models might change inside our own company, back and forth. What's best for any particular part of the company at a certain time? That's what it has to be driven by. That is interesting if you think about, well, gosh, how long do these things take and how complex are they? And, is it something that's going to be 2 years, 4 years, 5 years? Herbalife purchased this Oracle solution in the middle of December in 2011. In the middle of January 2012, 30 days later, over Christmas time, they were fully deployed in 60 countries with more than 10,000 users. So that's an example of what can be done if you ensure that you're working to put your needs first instead of just accepting what is sort of the technology cloud buzzword of the day. What are some of these characteristics of lock-in, right? If you see it, run from it. Is it all proprietary? Do they allow you to run your applications? That is your business. Can it run across public, private, hybrid, any combination of those? If it can't, that might tilt a little bit toward lock-in. You should be very, very demanding on this. Do you have to have one set of application code in the cloud, one set of application code on-premise, another one for hybrid, maybe some variations in public and private? And if you think about that, doesn't that take us back to the world we're trying to escape from with the cloud? Which is right, we've gotten by dozens or hundreds of different technology pieces from hundreds of different vendors, bring in busloads of integrators, hope that somehow they'll find a way to string all that stuff together and make it work. And then when anything new comes in an upgrade, we repeat the process. Isn't there a better way? We think this is. The easy data accessed. Are the APIs that you're being offered robust? Are they easy? Are they intuitive? Are you going to have this endless training session for the people in your company to be able to understand the applications that run your business? Look for standard-based solutions, portability of apps, and data accessibility. And any vendor that tells you, hey, this is going to be difficult, it's going to cost extra to do that, I think you know what to tell them. So payment, right? All sorts of businesses. The businesses are very different. You want to buy a car or procure a car, right? You can buy it, you can lease it, you can rent it, you can use Zipcar, you can borrow your brother-in-law's, there's all sorts of ways to do it. It shouldn't be one size fits all, and it certainly should be the same with the cloud. So we happen to think that pay-per-use is a lovely model if that is the most beneficial one for the customer at that time. If you've got spikes in usage and capacity needs for retail, certain times a year, development and testing, this can be a fine way to go. But there's other parts of your business that we'll see here, core business uses, your major applications you run, a lot of the ERP, things like that, day after day after day. It might be more that a standard subscription model is the right way to go. And as you think about which is best for you, just keep coming back to that and say it is not a one price fits all, that pay-per-use is the only way to go. That can be a very nice model if it suits your needs, but if it isn't, you're going to end up paying a lot more than you expected or that you deserve to pay. So we see on the one side, cost per compute hour times compute hours plus cost, they can get fairly complicated in there. But if that's the right model, you can go with that. The other way, it's just 1 month, or one simple fee per month. Flexibility versus predictable costs. You have trade-offs here. Pick the one that's right for you. Subscription pricing can be less costly, but it's not necessarily less costly. You have to choose the one that fits your needs. I know I've said that about 500 times, and I think I'll say it a few more times coming up. The big point about this is, and maybe it's one of the biggest cloud computing myths of all, is that you're going to be forced to take what is available from the technology community. Those days are over. You should take exactly what fits your business best and what is most valuable and most beneficial to your company. And if you think any tech provider is not giving you all of that, go somewhere else, because there's lots of choices. Right? We've got companies with billions and billions of dollars in revenue, technology vendors offering cloud stuff. We've got little tiny startups that are doing it. There's a myriad of choices across all these different areas. Find the one that's right for you. So security, right? It's got to be at or near the top of everybody's list. And for so long, it's like, oh my God, if I put this stuff in the cloud, won't my neighbor be asking me questions about it over the back fence later today? And how can I do this? And the media love to talk about these breaches where certain information was let out. And I'm not trying to minimize those at all. Those are incredibly serious and stuff for your business. Again, as we talked about it, this isn't some trivial information that's out here when your business moves to the cloud, right? It's who you are. It's your brand and your products, that information that your customers trust you with. And I think you should be unyielding and incredibly rigorous in pounding on any technology vendor who wants to sell you a cloud solution on this issue of security. But what's been demonstrated over the past couple of years, the past few years, as some of these cloud solutions have become more robust, we've got more experience with them and all, is that in many cases, cloud providers are going to live or die based on how well they can secure your cloud solution. And for many businesses these days in this relatively tough global economy, they don't have a lot of extra money to spend on suboptimal security issues and some of these internal requirements that as you try to operate on a global basis, what holds true in one country in Europe is different from another European country, very different from a country in Asia. Data center requirements, where is the information stored, who holds it, who's able to handle all these policies. Are you familiar with what's going on with data security policies in the 80 countries in which you do business? And if you're not, this cloud might be a better way to go. Right? In the do-it-yourself model, lots of companies are stuck with limited security resources. They just don't have enough people. And of the people they do have, can those people keep up with all these regulatory requirements, security requirements, compliance demands, not just in the US, but all over the world? What about these audits that spring up by certain governments or industries that come in? Is your team going to be able to handle those expertly? Can they speak the language of your business, the language of your technology, and also the language that auditors come in with about privacy, about uptime, about security, and so on like that. And finally, do you feel that you've got the latest and most up-to-date hardware and software all the time? And if you don't, is that a potential risk here for security? And an argument that the best cloud providers will make to you is that because it is a huge part of the business that they're into right now, they've got to be rock solid on all those things. How to deal with audits, how to deal with the latest hardware and software, and make sure you get the upgrades via the cloud so that you don't have to worry about being caught behind a generation or two with vulnerabilities there. Cloud security experts, compliance experts, regulatory experts. If the cloud provider you're talking to can't assure you on every one of those points, go somewhere else. I think this point in red at the bottom, not all cloud security is equal. Boy, is that true. I think that that's something you'll find very clearly, and you have the right to be very demanding, to be unyielding in ensuring that any cloud provider that you offer can demonstrate to you that they will hold your brand, your business, your reputation as dear as you do yourself, and they'll protect it as rigorously as you would. That customer data that you have on site, that they'll protect that as rigorously and vigorously as you would. So myth number 9. I need multiple clouds, right? I want best of breed of every piece that comes along here. And I know lots of companies in the industry that I'm in, for example. You know, if somebody says, geez, this retail cloud provider seems really good, and it's a $15 million company, it's growing like a weed, that's really terrific. And then I've got that HR company that's still kind of small. They're really good. I hear good things about them. They got a nice write-up somewhere. Is that the way to go? And it's certainly possible. I know at Oracle, the cloud pieces we offer, you can mix and match. Take the whole thing or go piece by piece as you like. What I think the danger is that's inherent in this model is, does this not take us back to the same thing that IT's been fighting for the last 20 or 25 or 30 years? We talked about this before, this integration nightmare. I buy hundreds of things from hundreds of vendors, and then I am responsible for putting it all together. Like you go to the auto parts store and you buy 6,000 pieces, take them home and say, this is great, I'm going to build a car. I'm going to build my own car. I'm going to build it, run it, maintain it, keep it up, and it's going to be as good as anything that those, multi-billion dollar companies can come up with. I'm not sure that that's the right approach today, but that question is more for you. This model, running lots and lots and lots of different applications from lots and lots of different cloud vendors, might bring with it certain advantages. It certainly brings with it certain challenges. And you've got to figure out, is that worth the trade-off here? If you look over on the right-hand side of this slide, some of these survey results. This is through our independent Oracle user group survey we did with them, right? So more than half of the companies we surveyed who've been using the cloud said they experienced downtime specifically with software as a service, or SaaS, applications in the cloud, team or staff downtime because their applications weren't available. They weren't up. About half of them missed business deadlines because of these problems with downtime or the lack of integration across different applications. Maybe even more important, almost 3/4 of them said their innovation initiatives were delayed because of some of these problems they had with integrating my cloud HR product with my cloud financial product with my, this other piece over here and so on that they had strung together, because each one of those has to be connected. The users in your company are going to have to say, okay, so when I'm in HR, this is the user interface. When I'm doing the thing with procurement, it's another interface. When I'm doing financials and expense reports, it's another one. And do I have enough time? Do I have enough training people? Do I have enough bandwidth to do this? Does it also begin to interfere with the business processes? And at a time when each of our businesses has to be able to run faster than ever before and move as fast as the world around us, is this the right way to go? You folks have to be able to answer that question. Okay, here's what one vendor offers. We'll hop over that. Myth number 10. The biggest advantage of cloud computing is lower costs. Now, there's no question that the cost advantage that can come through the cloud, either in software as a service, or infrastructure as a service, or platform as a service, or some combination of all of those, the cost implications, the cost benefits can be terrific. And there's lots of demonstrable models, and the basic sense of that is if you're in the shoe business, or you're in the financial services business, or the transportation business, Do you want to be spending more and more and more of your technology budget on infrastructure and integration? Today, I think a lot of CEOs are saying, with regard to IT, they said, I don't have an IT budget problem. I don't have an IT spending problem. The CEOs are saying, I spend lots of money on technology, maybe even a little too much. The problem is, where am I spending it? Is it on the higher value stuff that touches customers, that creates that great experience, that lets you see the world through the eyes of your customers, that lets you develop products more rapidly, that lets you answer customer questions more quickly, that lets you do dynamic pricing so you can evaluate what are the right merchandising models I should have here, what are the right sort of interest rates I should tag on these new products, what's the right design for that new line of clothing I'm going to have out, how many distributors should I have in North America versus how many I have in South America. Can you move that fast? That's where cloud is going to have such a big impact, because done properly, it's going to allow you to spend less money on infrastructure and integration and more money on customer-facing issues. So we think you have more flexibility, right? Not everything is sort of a one-off, homemade, customized stuff throughout the company. You'll be able to plan more, hit those deadlines, move along more aggressively toward the things that make more of a difference toward your customers. And the speed issue that we just talked about as well. It cannot be overstated in today's business. Because as fast and as nutty as things might be today, a year from now they're going to be a little bit faster and at least a little bit nuttier. So the summary about some of these 10 myths, there's lots of broad knowledge that more business people understand, not just the technology people, but the business people understand. And yet, against that, remember in that opening slide, half of the people thought that when you have thunderstorms, the cloud systems are going to go down because they're tied in somehow with that. So there's a lot of misperceptions, and you've got to be very clear about this. I think in addition to those that we as the public in our consumer lives have in general about the cloud, as professionals, the one that is of most concern to me is the sense that it's the tech industry that's in charge. It's not. It's you who are in charge of these decisions. You have more choice than ever before. You have more of an opportunity to pick the options and the customized solution set that you want than ever before. But that last point, make the right choices. It can offer your business choice, value, flexibility, more so than ever before. If you'd like to learn more about Oracle and our cloud business, we're on social at these different places here. And also with our friends here at Cloud Expo, we'll have a session at 5:10 today, Build Modern Business Apps with Oracle Cloud Platform Services. Tomorrow we'll talk about building a big data analytics cloud, and that'll be in the healthcare business, and also fast track your transformation to enterprise private cloud. That'll be tomorrow as well. Thank you very much. Jeremy, if we have time for questions.
We absolutely have time for questions. And when you have the Senior VP of Communications for Oracle on your stage, and he's only enumerated 10 myths, well, I know what the first question is going to be. It's going to be somebody who's got at least the 11th and the 12th. Let's see a hand and make Bob go through this. I can now see people, but instead they're taking pictures. There comes the hand. Whether it's an 11th myth, we don't know. There you are, sir.
So, in one of the myths you mentioned that you put is the lock-in vendors.
Yes.
Okay, and you talked about standards and things. Would you be able to expand on the kind of standards that Oracle is trying to adopt, or is there another session for this?
Yeah, certainly you'll be able to speak with some people who have greater technical depth than I do, but some of the standards we're saying, we're using from Java, industry standard middleware, right up through the stack like that. Open APIs in whatever we're building here, and where we allow things to move across the cloud, to on-premise, public, private, hybrid, any combination of that you want. That's what we mean by open, that your investment will scale across all of those different systems that you might have.
Make sense? He nods. Another question, please. Over here, they're very quiet over here. What's going on? Ah, you see? What happened? What if I go right to the end? No questions for Bob Evans from this side of the room. Where are your right brains? I see a hand at the back. Is that a hand that wants a microphone? Then here it comes. Stand up, because he might be able to. He can't see you. He can barely see you.
Hi. In a nutshell, can you just give us the bottom line? What is cloud? I'm just a little confused.
Okay,
well,
Mr. Communications.
Yeah, well, let's see.
Good luck.
We have 10 minutes, so... okay, so lots of companies in different sort of businesses, pick any one. One of the things they've had to do over the last 30 or 40 years is build computer systems that help run their business. At a certain point, some of these companies said, you know what? I don't want to be in the computer business. I'm in the shoe business. I'm in the retail business, the banking business. And they're saying, just like with electricity, I don't want to go build my own generator, make my own electricity, or have my own water processing plant. Will somebody run the computer stuff for me, send me the services over a wire or through wireless, and I will buy those computing end results rather than buy all the stuff that goes into it. So when you use Google to do a search engine, you don't have a big computer in your basement doing that search for you. Somebody else owns that. That's a cloud.
Did that make sense?
Yes, thank you very much.
We have a convert. We have a convert. Next question. If you can follow that one, you get a special prize. It's got to be over here. Okay, here we go.
Look at this guy.
Well, you know, 9 minutes. We've got to chop, chop, chop. Come on. Sock it to him.
Yes, hi. I'm curious about the connectivity concerns. How are clients reacting to the possibility of losing their connectivity, and what types of backups are they potentially looking at?
Yep, it's a great point
Fair
there
question.
because, right, all that other stuff in the, you know, this great cloud solution somebody has, it's useless to you if the connectivity isn't there. So there are very, very, very high standards that have been set for that, the testing that's done, and I think customer to customer will say, hey, this is my, and I'm just going to fall back on this cliche, I just want to run my employee vacation policy. We're not going to need the highest level standards for that. Somebody else who's running their financials and their transactions and running customer data on it, they'll want the world's greatest, most, you know, high-level security there and the assurances. So those can be tiered. And depending on what you need with that, talk to the cloud providers about what they offer. And there's industry scales that show, are they in compliance with the different levels up through what you need.
And how about diversity of connectivity? Is that something that's should be a major concern in this industry?
Yeah, I just want to be sure I understand. I mean, like, wire...
Cable and
Yeah.
satellite, for example.
Yeah, I think the business has gotten through those pretty well these days. I don't think there should be much of a hang-up based on the type of connectivity you want to have. If somebody can't meet every one of those needs, I don't think they're serious about your business.
Any more? For any more? Don't lose my microphone. Here it comes.
You mentioned that cost is not the primary driver for looking at the cloud, and the things that customers should look at is flexibility and speed. Flexibility and speed in some ways are related to cost. You know, the speed that you're developing or you're doing innovation, or the flexibility that you have drives down the cost of the innovation or the flexibility. In that sense, I think that's what all customers right now are looking for, cost savings, because everything's related to that. Is there something that I've missed, or?
No, I think you're right. And the trade-off there is, if you say, if I do all this myself in a world that is moving faster, am I going to want to continue to invest in that over and over, so that me, inside my company, that I'm buying all this stuff that helps me move as fast as everybody, while at the same time, you know, to your excellent point there, I'm staying as flexible as I need to be. There's, you know, what, 50, 100, couple hundred companies in the world that have that sort of scale and investment to be able to do that all inside. I think for most others, they're either going to have a trade-off and say, I can't move as fast or as flexibly as I'd like, or they might say, this other model is going to help me stay a little bit farther ahead of each of those curves as we go along. So I think where we see cloud is it's not a magic bullet or a panacea for everything by any means. What it does is give customers additional choices and additional ways to look at things and say, for the dollars I'm investing, what's the value I'm getting out of that?
Very, very good. Anyone for the last question? One last question. And if not, going has to be fast. Very good. See? Just in time questions.
I was just curious, what do you see the trend, what companies are using cloud, public or private, or what do you find like, and it probably depends on what type of business and what vertical and all that other stuff, but what do you see the trend? I mean, what are they using it for? Like, maybe it's too vague a question.
No,
no,
it's
I'm just curious. I mean,
Yeah, it's an excellent question. So I bet there's a lot of companies that sit out and they say, here's where I am today. If everything works perfectly in my cloud strategy for the next 3 to 5 to 7 years, this is where I'm going to be. But they're not going to go and put their trading systems in the cloud. They're not going to put their, so they'll start relatively small, development test, some internal employee-based applications, step those up as they go along. And each time doing extensive trials beforehand. But one thing, and Jeremy, I wanted to mention this, just an anecdote from a few years ago, and this is not related to Oracle, but Eli Lilly, the pharmaceutical company, had begun to deploy cloud for some of their scientists. So the internal tests and ideas and hypotheses the scientists were using. And one of them was some of the scientists found that, well, before the cloud, when I'd go in to ask something, I don't really want to scale up a big experiment here because it takes 8 months to get the servers in and provisioned. And then after that, I'm not going to have a real powerful server. I can't do the sort of big scale testing I want. With the cloud, they were able to get it in much more quickly and with much more power. So Eli Lilly said what they found was that their scientists looked at time and potential very differently. Instead of restricting their thinking to what was possible under the existing system, which took a long time, cloud allowed them to move much faster and much more aggressively into big tests. So ultimately, it's going to change not just your existing process, it will change how you look at your business, what's possible today, what's possible tomorrow, and what can I do moving forward.
So it really depends on what the project is or what the need is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not the right thing for everything, but in a lot of cases, it's a tremendous step forward.
They're not going to do their ATM network on the cloud.
Depending on where somebody is, it's not going to be the first thing they do, but over time they might find, hey, we've been successful every step. We get this now. We understand it, and the cloud providers we're using have been rock solid. Then, yeah, I think they might go more in that direction.
There you are. Let's make that the final thought and give it up, please, for Bob Evans, Oracle. Thank you so much, Bob. Another session is coming right up. Our speaker is ready. We have Richard Place. We are going into